Yeah, we're live tonight. Thanks everybody. There's a couple people here already that have been waiting for quite a while, actually. So tonight we're going to talk to Jimmy and Joel, who are nice enough to come online with us, and we're going to be talking about the tunes that we'll be offering. You can see them here. We got some packaging, we got RTD stuff, and then what we want to talk about is we'll start out by talking about, and Jimmy and Joel can kind of talk about this, but we'll talk about what tunes initially we have available, and then kind of what the procedure is and stuff. You'll go through a questionnaire process because just like with picking the right camshaft, getting the thing tuned for the right camshaft or other combinations of things that you have, it's going to be very, very important that those guys have all of the information so that we can make sure that you get the right thing, and then you can get the thing tuned and make all the power that you want. So first of all, welcome Jimmy, welcome Joel. What's going on, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
So maybe Jimmy, you probably can start this, and then we can get with Joel on specific questions that guys I'm sure will come up with later on. So if you guys are wanting to put together questions, save them for a little bit so that we'll get through some of the stuff. So we'll give you the information that we have, and that might answer a bunch of stuff. And then we'll go through questions that you guys might have about what the tunes are and what they do. But what tunes will we have available initially, Jimmy?
Yeah, so right now on the website, we're live with 99 through 2013 LS-based 4853 and 6-liter application. And so we're really excited about this. We've tested them with all of our camshafts and all of our fuel system components, and we'll get into more of that later. But specifically, we want to stick with things that we offer at this moment.
Okay. So the tunes are going to be specific to the camshafts that we offer for the different combinations, 4, 8, 5, 3, 6, 0 kind of thing.
Yep.
Will we do the? Are we really thinking about trucks? Let's say, are we specializing in that, or do we want to go? Are there going to be? I mean, no, I know guys take and put a Ripper Junior cam, a low buck truck, or Truck Plus in other things like a Camaro or a GTO or a Corvette or whatever. Will there be stuff available for them?
Yes. Yeah. LS1, LS2, LS3 are all covered as well.
Okay. So anything with the factory ECU basically is kind of good to go.
Yep.
Okay. Joel, we want to cover really quickly, or not really quickly, you can take as much time as you need. When somebody orders a tune, obviously they're going to go to the section on the store, they'll click on tune, it will hopefully show them, first of all, like what camshaft they have, which one of our cams they have, but what other questions will be like on the questionnaire that you're going to want to know so that you can have the tune be right for their combination.
So I'd like to know their engine displacement and their PCM type. If they don't know the PCM type, with their RTD device that they buy from you guys, when they scan it, I'll know, so it won't really matter. Okay. Injector, what injector they're running, the fuel pump that they're running. The injector types, I'm super comfortable with things like injector dynamics, FIC, fuel injector connection, and whatever offerings you guys have coming in the future. I know you guys have talked about that.
Okay, but certainly all the factory ones and a lot of aftermarket ones, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If they have any GM injector they throw in there, it's going to be fine. Okay. And some of the Fords, some of the Ford NECA stuff. Aside from that, ancillary things like if the guys have a mechanical fan vehicle and they put electronic fans in it, that's some need to know stuff. And unless they like steam, okay. Things like that.
What about transmission or gearing or maybe converter size or those kinds of things?
I mean, I'm told all that from the tune and the OS, so that's not a huge issue. That's not guys with a bigger tire size or a different rear gear. That's some need to know stuff, so we can do a transmission rollout, get the shifting right, and all the shift points and everything like that. So truck.
So somebody's going to want to know if the tune has the ability to make the 4L60 indestructible. That's probably not the case, right?
Indestructible, no. I kind of pride myself in having pretty good luck with 4L60s to a reasonable point. Maybe Jimmy knows what the reasonable point is now, I think. Tahoe. But
I think 660 torque is maybe a little.
650 torque is about as reasonable as it gets,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, indestructible, no. But it's I'm not the kind of guy that wants to rattle the dash when it shifts. I like transmissions that live a long time.
Yeah.
So shift quick, yes. Shift hard, no.
Well, and the other thing that we're experiencing with Jimmy's transmission is, first of all, it had lots of miles on it.
Yeah.
We don't know, like, you never know how well it was treated and what kind of shape it was in when we started going, hey, what we should do is we should do a whole bunch of chassis dyno testing and then put cams in it, put a turbo on it, and then turn it up and try to make 600 plus horsepower, whatever, the tires, which we know that they're not going to be fond of.
And then pull trailers with it.
Yeah. Well, of course, hey, right? Because if you're going to turbo it, that's why you turbo it, so you could tow with it. You need that extra towing power.
It's our shop truck. It gets around and it hauls all of our stuff. So.
That's right. You towed trailer loads full of stuff for the shop. That's for sure.
That's right.
So on the tunes, it's not going to matter really. And right now we're talking about basically NA tunes with the cams, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. So we got all the cams taken care of. Essentially any sort of realistic injector that we would put in there. What if a guy changes the mass air meter on these things? If he wants to go with some kind of, I don't know if it's Granatelli or whoever else does these aftermarket mass air meters, is there a need to know that when you're doing the tune?
Yeah, that's something I would like to know. If the pipe diameter, and for the guys with the Gen 4 stuff, or any guys with the slot style MAF sensors, I should say, like if they change the pipe diameter, giving us an approximation gives us a good ballpark to start with. So if they can
does the air intake system, if it's other than a factory air box, does that change the mass air meter or the reading or the tune at all?
So while I would say it shouldn't, it can a little bit. A little bit. But as long as there's nothing crazy in there, like some big snorkus crazy thing happening or a really strange bend right on top of the MAF sensor or something, it's not going to be a big deal.
And because Jimmy had said that we cater to all of a pretty big range of years of the Gen 3 and Gen 4 stuff, that means that the tunes will work obviously with a manual throttle body and the drive-by-wire, various drive-by-wire versions as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if they do have aftermarket throttle bodies, if it's not something of a higher quality for the e-throttle guys,
yeah,
I might tell them to throw it in the garbage.
Okay.
But I mean, there's plenty big stock throttle bodies out there if they want to run something bigger in the within the realm of what's compatible with their PCM.
Yeah.
And we can make lists and stuff like that for the website for things like that. But unless they want to like spring for a Nick Williams type deal, the aftermarket throttle bodies at NASCAR makes 800 horsepower through 85 millimeters. So like, I don't tell people to go buy a throttle body as a mod personally.
Have you had problems with the aftermarket throttle bodies? I mean, we've had problems with them leaking and doing various things and not being straight and stuff, but I didn't know about the electronics portion of that.
Sticking. Some of the cheaper ones, they have less gearing, less teeth in the gears, and they kind of hang up. Particular football player's nice I think it was a 1970 Chevelle that had to go to SEMA for Fuller Moto here in Atlanta for Brian Fuller, and faulty idling. Made me feel dumb. Couldn't figure out what was going on. We ended up having to take the throttle blade out and actually lap it on a belt sander because it was hanging up. We just had to tap it down just a little bit just to get it to behave. So I mean, not to be a big fan of the cheaper aftermarket throttle bodies. And
we've seen that problem particularly with the blades snapping shut, and then basically staying there and not wanting to come back and actuate after that.
That was what we were experiencing with that one. And then some of the cheaper Chinese cable throttles. I had a Nomad in the shop recently. Yeah. Really beautiful car, cheapest throttle body I've ever seen. When the cable would actually torque, it would twist. So if you just had a little bit of tension, it would twist and actually create an opening that it didn't have before. And now your resting idle has changed. It had a sharp enough edge on the inside of the port for the IAC that sometimes the IAC would go down, it would get stuck and wouldn't come back out.
Yeah.
So little stuff like that.
If you look at the good throttle bodies and a lot of the OEM stuff, you'll see that their final sealing for the throttle body is actually a coating.
Yeah.
And so when they seal against that they want it to be sealed all the way. And it was close enough to get it to that point, and then they have the sealant stuff that goes in there and does the finalized version of that. So some of them you can just see through and count the number of fingers that you have back behind the throttle body and stuff, because it's weird that, you know, because a throttle blade is not, you know, perfectly round, obviously. And so when sometimes it doesn't fit on the sides, sometimes it doesn't fit top to bottom or off to the left or off to the right. You know, it can be a problem with boring the hole or a problem with stamping or laser cutting the plate and machining the plate. It can be, there's all sorts of things that go into making a really, really good throttle body.
Yeah.
So the procedure after if they would order this, like a guy buys a truck plus cam, he's got a 5.3 or whatever, like Jimmy has in his deal, the transmission blower upper with the turbo kit. So if they, you know, have a cam and have the motor and do the questionnaire and stuff, they're going to order this and they're going to get this RTD, right? And then they'll get that and plug it in basically and load this program in.
So once they get the RTD, they're going to create an account. They're going to download the app from HP Tuners, and they'll create their own account.
Okay.
They will need an invite code from us. Once they have their invite code, they'll go under it. The tab actually says write, but there's a read function after you get past that tab. So they'll click that, read out their ECU, send us that file so we can make our modifications so that they.
And actually, it goes on the TDN, the Tune Delivery Network. So Joel can he'll get a notification once they read it.
Okay.
And they upload it onto the network.
Yeah, and then we make our modifications and send it back.
Are you making your modifications to their tune?
So in the event that the certain OSs, we would want, like, there's certain vehicles where you might want to keep the OS that they have. So we will actually be making modifications to their operating system for their vehicle. And then there's others where like some of the earlier PO1 stuff, there's like, this is the good OS. Just use the good OS. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So it's going to be vehicle dependent. And then things like in Gen 4, one of the cool features, it doesn't quite translate to the Gen 3 stuff, but on the TDN side of the HP Tuners thing, we have a template editor. So like Gen 4 vehicles come in, I just have this template for this cam and this injector, and I can just drag and drop it, and it just makes changes. So that's something that expedites it instead of having to do like a compare and bring over the changes you want.
Okay, yeah. Nope, that's cool. And also, so people realize that these will not just be for the obviously factory cars that had these motors in them originally, but if a guy had swapped a motor and transmission with the harness and the factory ECU into a Nova or Chevelle or Camaro or whatever, or even an older truck or whatever, that as long as everything is hooked up correctly, shouldn't this still work?
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of my bread and butter. I end up working with more swap cars than I work with stock vehicles.
Okay.
For some reason, I just friends with a lot of hot rod guys, you know, so that's the stuff that I see. So, and I'm happy to help those guys, because there's a lot of simple troubleshooting stuff that kind of, if this is your first or second time swapping, like there's probably 3 or 4 things everybody misses. So there's always like easy, you just say, check this, check that. If you buy one of those Alibaba harnesses, just know that all your oranges and pinks are all on an ignition switch, and your oranges need to be hot all the time, because that's your keep alive memory. Your cam memory, to use a Ford terminology. Little stuff like that. They're just, you find little stuff, you know. Okay.
And that's stuff that you found along the way to having had solve problems?
That's stuff I found up under a dashboard behind Vintage Air. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not going to be in a convenient spot, right?
No, never.
Jimmy, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, just going back to the simplicity of it. Once they get onto the website, they place their order. I'll shoot Joel an email. He'll reach out to them, and then the whole process begins as he explained. And so it's really simple and straightforward. There will be revisions and the ability for us to take log files, and it's going to be based on Joel's request, so that he can go in and fine tune things and get them down the road.
So he can receive log files, look at the data, and go, oh, well, this is what's happening, and this is what we need to adjust. Therefore,
correct.
Yeah, and guys should expect that there's going to be a few revisions every time we sell a tune. That there's going to be a couple of revisions as he goes through and cleans up fuel trims or timing or whatever it is based on fuel and other things that they have in their area, and he can see those, see what's happening and make those corrections.
Okay. Is on the tunes, I'm sure guys are going to ask, are there changes for the transmission for shifting or shift RPM or line pressure or any of that stuff?
Absolutely. And we're kind of going to base that off of what cam they have, as far as like, if they have a ripper, obviously it's going to want to rev to like 6100, 6200, something like that, so we're just going to, I have enough dyno charts on all these cams now that I know where they want to shift and everything. And and more so for, I find that the pickup truck guys actually end up liking transmission tunes a lot more than anybody else. You can really transform the way a pickup truck feels by doing little. Maybe I'm a downshift guy, so I like making them downshift a little bit easier and stuff like that. Have a little bit more revs and just I know that hills. So
I know that in my stock truck there are times when I'm getting on the freeway or whatever, and I seemingly have a fair bit of throttle angle in this thing, but it has not kicked down the way that I want it to. So maybe a little more aggressive there would allow you to do it, because you don't need to mash it to full throttle to get what you want. You should be able to get that at part throttle and just get the extra gearing.
Yeah, and it's subjective. So during during the first couple of data logs, if guys just say, "Hey, I'd rather it be a little more this way than that way," in the email process, that's not a big deal. So,
and just like the best cam, this stuff is just going to be subjective, because somebody may want the chirp second 4060. So somebody may want that, hey, I don't want to notice the shift kind of thing, and both of those are right for as long as they're okay with what it's doing to the transmission. They kind of decide that.
Yeah, it's totally subjective, and it's totally up to the end user. I'm happy to accommodate. So
cool. Well, let's see if excuse me. Let's see if you guys have some questions here. Will there be a question section in this live feed? Yes, there is. You're on it right now. So if you have a question, just ask a question. Got a Truck Plus cam and springs already going on this weekend. Bigfoot, you got questions, man? I need a decent bass tune for my LS1. It has trick flow, 515 horsepower heads and cam kit. I can't wait. Yeah, I'm sure that they can, if it would be the same kind of thing. Cougar, just you're going to get with Jimmy initially, and then get with Joel and just tell them all the things that you have, what vehicle it is and all that stuff. So I'm sure that they'll get all that solved. We offer tune files if I already have my own HP tuner.
I mean,
that question for Jimmy, I guess.
Joel, we can. I think we need to talk through that a little bit, and so we'll need to talk through that a little bit.
Okay. The answer is maybe.
Well, I mean, I got no problem working with guys that have their own MPVI cable, but they would probably have to go through Jimmy to get to me, kind of deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Bill wants to know, assuming some flexibility in fuel trims, does this need to have stock exhaust, or can this be retuned, or is that extra? I don't really know what you're asking there, Bill, in terms of the change that you're talking about. Are you changing the exhaust and then want to know if the tune will stay the same, or is it going to be different initially going in? I'm not sure which one of those situations it is. Good camshaft for a high RPM D-stroke LS. So, Charlie, you just tell me what kind of power you're making and what the combination is, and whether or not you care about what converter you'd be using, or is it a manual trans or whatever. But off the top of my head, the BTR Stage 4 LS3 cam for that is a pretty good choice. Billy, over-under speed on idle is the greatest thing ever for squatted truck tunes. Is a squatted truck tune different than a regular truck tune?
You just tell them to go back to North Carolina.
Is that like a crackle tune?
Pretty much.
BBK drive-by-wire throttle body tune was not good. Forget an IAC drill holes in that. Yeah, I have seen that a lot. In fact, we've done that at West Tech before, where we just drill a hole in the throttle body to kind of get the idle speed close-ish. On the engine, I know we don't really care about that, and so some of them have that already. This is why I got a Bosch mass air meter for my turbo BMW, because I didn't want tuning issues. Does the Bosch make that better, easier to tune or something? What management are you using for the BMW? 406 is a great transmission if used correctly. I'm putting a 6-liter back in my Nova with the Truck Plus cam. I'll need some help. Yeah, these guys will be able to get you hooked up for that. They got a lot of. Jimmy's got a Truck Plus in there now. Not a 6-liter, but that's not going to be a problem.
Yep.
Can we use an MPVI3 instead of the RTD? Do you guys know what that is?
Yeah, that's just the latest HP tuners cable. That'll be good.
Okay.
And we can offer those as well, and we can have them up pretty
Okay.
quickly if guys are interested in that.
The MPVI3, he can still get stuff through TDN.
Okay. Kyle, stock LM7 rebuilt with rings, gap 706 heads, truck Norris cam, looking for 500 at the tire. Jimmy suggested 3584 at 10 psi. Stock computer, anything you change for a daily driver. Gen 4 rods. It doesn't need Gen 4 rods. It just needs ring gap, and if you've done that already, you're going to be fine. 500 at the tire is like an everyday. If the tune's right, that's like everyday lasts forever kind of thing, as long as the transmission is going to put up with that. What do you think, Jimmy? 500 at the tire for the GTX?
Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think 500 is kind of like my happy place. I know that 600 is doable, but once you start going a little over 500, I'm pushing more to the G42.
Yeah.
And so that 500 to 600 is kind of the gray area. If you're confident you'll never go over 600, cool. 3584 will be all right. But if you start going above 600, let's go with the G42.
And 500 at the tire on a 3584 and a 5.3, you've already seen is going to be amazingly responsive, because you're going to have all of you're not just having like boost at the end of that, you're having boost at the beginning to the end. So you have a really, really broad like power curve.
It's really fun on the street. The G42 is great on the street, but the 3584 definitely lights off quickly. And I mean, we just made a little over 600, and it was happy. I mean, there was more room, but still, I don't. The
G4584 is like a PD blower.
Yeah,
it
comes up. Right.
Yeah, you can satisfy the off idle torque guys.
Yeah, right.
They want that. Main issue with Gen 4 and a decent cam is using Blue Cat to recalibrate the trans. Do you know what that is?
About Blue Cat? I know what Blue Cat is.
Okay.
Well, I didn't hear the question though. I was half in.
I don't know. He just said he's making value files, and he said the main issue with Gen 4 and a decent cam is using Blue Cat to recalibrate the trans. I don't know why I don't know what that statement. Maybe it was from something that he was talking about before.
Well, Blue Cat is an excellent tool. So.
Okay. Would we need a wideband O2? We were talking about that earlier, that they probably don't need it for a naturally aspirated deal.
The NA stuff, no, I don't. I think they'll be pretty much everyone will be fine with the NA stuff. As long as they sort of hang within the guidelines, and pretty much buying stuff off of your website, they'll be within.
And don't change the things that you that we give them.
Yeah. So boosted stuff, I would recommend a wideband if you want to go boosted, at least,
And particularly, we were talking about when there needs to be the crossover or the changeover from the math up to the a 3-bar map sensor setup.
Yeah.
Okay, so if he's going crazy and he wants, hey, I want to use all of the G42.
Yeah,
that's probably a good idea then.
If he's wanting to run more than 10 or 12 psi, he's probably going to want to look at a 3-bar.
Yeah. 6L80 can be worse to keep alive than a 4L60. Why is the 6L80 a problem? I didn't think that was a problem. Does it have to be one of your cams? I have a sloppy stage 2 with AFR heads as well for my LS1. I'm sure Joel can tune anything, but the tunes that we have right now are going to be our cams, right?
Correct. I mean, I could always get with Richie if he wants to do a custom tuning thing where somebody can just fill out a thing and say like, hey, I've got this wild stuff. How do you feel about it? I'm game for whatever, you know. So
yeah. And I can show you the power curves on those, and you probably could do it from that, because a sloppy stage 2 is not going to be a lot different than it'll be softer down low a little bit than a Truck Plus. I bet the tune's not going to be far off from that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't run anything boosted without a wideband. Wouldn't tune anything without a wideband. Yeah, we don't do any tuning without a wideband.
Yeah, we've vetted all
for this. I'd like to look into this. Sounds like a great deal. Carl, yeah, you go to richardholderperformance.com. Need a wideband for PE.
you do. If everybody wants to buy a wideband, I'm here for it.
Yeah, no, we're pro wideband. I know I tune, and if it's beyond a camshaft swap, I'm using my wideband. No, if you're tuning it, then you should. But what you're getting will already be right on an NA combination. Lambda tuning and open loop is the only way to tune. Yeah, the only kind of caveats are that's using tow haul mode to change the trans settings for racing. I use dynamic airflow and separate open loop and closed loop with filters. I'm looking into dual widebands just because I like knowing both sides. Stock rebuild Elm 7, we did that. Overbuilt, what's going on? I'll ask for others as far as remote tuning. Do you work with Universal Patcher or other tools that don't have a per vehicle cost?
No, we're not working with any of the like the Droid or any of the open source stuff right now.
Yeah, that's no, Mark. Can you control injectors for a dry shot of nitrous? I have a set of 1700 cc injectors on the shelf for nitrous enrichment.
What was the question?
Can you control injectors for a dry shot of nitrous? Will the factory setup do that? How do you activate the extra fuel?
You pirate the intake air temperature sensor on the when you arm the nitrous, you have it go all the way to 0 volts, and it'll put more.
Is there enough adjustability in a 0 degree air temp thing?
I was half joking with that.
Yeah, that seems. I mean, we used to do all of that stuff with the Honda stuff back in the day, but I just didn't know how much there was there. I don't think that this is the way to do it on a factory ECU.
Nitrous is cool. Wet nitrous is cooler. Like for his purposes for factory ECU stuff.
Yeah. LQ4 7675 Terminator X on 93 in the quarter mile. What should I target air fuel at on 15 psi? I've been targeting 11.8 at wide open throttle. Is that about right? It just feels rich. It should actually feel lean because that's getting up into the lean area.
It's a little lean.
You should be down closer to 11.0 if you want it to be safe.
Did he say?
I don't know how feels rich. I don't know what that feels like.
What fuel type did he say in that?
93.
Yeah, Subaru Rich, like we said earlier.
Yeah.
11.
Usually you do logs with parameters your tuner wants you to log. They send a log for revision. Yep. 2000 Tahoe 5.3 4-wheel drive. What is the easiest and quickest mod to get gain in any amount of power? First thing probably would be a tune. Then a cam and spring and a tune.
Yeah, cam spring.
Knock them all out at once. Best bang for your buck on any of these truck motor NA stuff is, for my dollar, it's a cam, especially if you're going to do it yourself and it's not that hard. These things are Legos, so you know.
And as we saw on Jimmy's Tahoe, that if you're starting with a stock vehicle and you put in a cam, you're not just getting a cam. you're getting a cam and a tune. So the gain, like we were showing gains and we were doing it. Okay, here's an optimized tune on the stock cam, but most guys don't have that. They just have the stock tune on the stock cam, and so the gain that you get from the cam swap when you add the tune to it, it could be another 20 horsepower or something, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, 4L80 trans behind that one from the Jimmy suggestion. How will that turbo do towing, air to water or air to air intercooler? I can fit either. Our kit that Jimmy has an air to water with a secondary heat exchanger. You also can do an air to air on the later vehicles because of fitment, because of the proximity of the radiator and the front bumper and all of that stuff. You can do both of those, and Jimmy has towed with his already. He's also run over 600 horsepower of the tire and 660 foot-pounds, which makes the 4L60 not happy.
I was just going to say, I've been spoiled by that air to water because it's like every rip you make on the dyno and you look down and it's like 82 degrees. You're just like,
every time. Yeah. So consistent.
Yeah. I love the air to water on the engine dyno because it's once we set it up, there's just we forget about it. It's just working, It's always just right. Thanks for the help last week via email, Gen 6 454 cams. I didn't know the QA live existed. Yeah, you're welcome, Brett. Tell all your friends. Tell like 8 million of your friends. And not that many because it'd be hard to moderate that, but maybe 6 million probably would be fine. Jimmy suggested that I email. It seems that the turbo would be best. 100-pound injectors. Just trying to get my idea of setup before I start spending. Yeah, the 1,000 cc injectors are fine. We have those on the store. We have pumps, and so you'll need all of that with the turbo stuff.
Yep.
I like to stay pump or premium 91, 93, but would do E85 I have to. So that brings up an interesting thing because we talked about it. Is later on when we start talking, and we'll probably do another live feed on it. When we start talking about boosted stuff, we want to maybe talk about flex fuel stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I think once guys go turbocharged, they're really going to like the difference between E and 93. It's a pretty stark difference,
I mean, I know guys. We get a lot of guys that are like, look, we don't have E85. We want to run pump gas. That's fine. That works. But once you sample E85, like if you go to the track and then you turn the boost up and turn the timing up and your motor goes, hey, look, we're going to party now. Yeah. Once you do that, the ability to seamlessly with a flex fuel sensor and then the right tune, obviously, the ability to do that it solves all the problems for you. You don't have to put multiple tunes in. You don't have to retune it. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Are you there, Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was reading through some of these questions. I missed it.
Can you explain the process? We send the specs of our setup cam, IXA, and then you do live tune and log. So I think he just wants a reiteration of what the process is for sending it in and getting it done.
As soon as he places the order, I'm going to send Joel an email, and I'm going to send him out his device. They'll connect, and they're going to fill out the questionnaire for Joel. Joel's going to get all that information, and then they're going to do a read on their computer. It'll go into the TDN network. Joe can pull that read file and modify it.
Okay. And you guys can explain that process to them.
Yeah,
I've never done that before.
I think where he said live tune, like, no, we're not going to sit there and tune live. There will be some email revision, just for some minor cleanup on this stuff.
Okay. Yeah. There won't be any while you're on the phone. That's not going to be happening.
We'll tell you what the log, and you'll send us a couple of logs back. And then...
Yeah. LS tuning here in South Georgia involves deleting knock sensors, converting to speed density, only max out PE and zero out torque management. Yeah, that's not what we're doing here.
I heard something about deleting something that's a no-no.
Deleting knock sensors, and I don't think that's a good idea for a street motor, particularly one that you'd be running on pump gas. Can pirate the AC settings for nitrous spark change. I have a 4-8 manual trans truck. The truck Norris cam and long tube headers. Nice. Been playing around with tuning it myself using an MP VI3. So yeah. But it's proving to take a long time. You're ready for some help? I'm sure that they can do that.
We can help you out.
Can you keep the high and low octane tables functioning in speed density?
So on Gen 3 stuff, no. When you go speed density only, your low octane table becomes your main timing table. So as long as the guy has the MAF sensor active, he will, I'm not a cut paste guy where I have the same timing in both tables. I really love to have that low octane table lower. So if things do go sideways, bad take a gas, something, the vehicle can actually knock itself some way, part way between either table or all the way into the low octane table if it has to. But guys that are speed density, yes, you only get one timing table.
Okay. 9953 LM7, 799 heads, milled 30, Trailblazer SS, 90 millimeter throttle body. Do you think the low butt cam will benefit from this setup, or might the Truck Plus work better? Well, the Truck Plus will 100% make more power. In every test that we have done on any combination, the Truck Plus is a bigger cam than the low butt truck is. So it makes more power past 5,000. It makes less power before 5,000. And it will do that with your combination and all the different combinations of 5.3s. So that's what will happen. That's not the question. The question is, which one of those things do you want? Do you want more power above 5,000 with a loss below, or do you care more about the pre-5,000 RPM and then you're willing to sacrifice the 15 horsepower, whatever that's at the top? So you get to pick. Get to pick between those two things. O2 Avalanche running an F9285 525 pump in a surge tank with an OEM pump as a lift pump. Surge tank is running dry. What would be a good lift pump? Could run 044 in series.
How big is the surge? Because I mean, something like a 290 should be fine, depending on the size of the surge tank.
Yeah, what size is the surge tank, and what is the pressure that you're asking the lift pump? What is that system pressure? Because an OEM stock pump with like no fuel pressure, which it wouldn't be running very much fuel pressure if it's just filling a surge tank, should flow a lot of fuel. It should flow as much or more than that 525 does. So it makes me wonder what's going on there.
And how long are you running? Yeah, how big the surge tank is, how long you're running it, watt to
yeah, and is the thing is the lift pump always filling the surge tank and then you have overflows for that? I'd like to know a little bit more about that.
And maybe what the rest
converter would you recommend for a 6-liter low butt truck cam, 706 heads, towing with a 4L80 and a 410 gear? You can use a stock converter for that. You will get better performance if that's what you're looking at for something like a 2500 or even a 2800. You have lockup converter in that transmission anyway. Those will all work, but anything from a stock all the way up to somewhere in that range. That's way too much torque. Yeah, 660 foot-pounds. And we were even nice to it, or Jimmy was nice to it. There's just one gear runs, not even laying into it in all the gears and letting it eat.
I really wanted to put a draggy in it when that setup was going on.
Yeah. I'll do flex fuel eventually. I wish it was more available where I live. Might even put turbos on my Z06. Listen to the first part of the stream so I know what's going on. There you go. Into the OBS Chevy sending unit. Is this surge tank? Does this surge tank empty? Like, is it sealed, or does stuff drain out of it? Building a 305, ported TPI intake, trick flow heads, a little cam, finishing off with a FiTech. Can I get 400 at the flywheel? Probably. I don't know about the it depends how extensive the porting is on the intake manifold. I don't think you'll get 400. Oh no, it's a 305. You definitely will not get 400. You're not going to be anywhere near 400. I was thinking 350. but it's not going to get 400. Unless you have to put a way different intake manifold on there. Those are good heads. You'd need a bigger cam to get anywhere near 400 with a 305. And you'd need a different intake manifold that runs a lot higher RPM. Been seeing a lot of people do 305 builds. Putting knock sensors on the boosted engines, a recipe for a bad day. Yeah, I agree. If they work and they're functioning, they're a good thing to have. Trek Plus sounds best. I don't want to get pulled on the big end. Yeah. Never seen one of my neck and whitewoods, but I want a strong 305 because it's different. Well, it'll feel really good with the tune port stuff on there. Anyone here know if a stock Silverado fuel pump will support cam, intake, and headers all motor? My answer is no.
What was the question again? If a stock
Will a stock fuel pump support a cam, intake, and headers upgrade on the motor?
It depends. What vehicle was it? A Tahoe?
Silverado.
Silverado.
They didn't say what year it was.
It depends.
I don't know what the flow rates of the stock different years or any of the years GM pumps flow. Does anybody know? Did anybody out there in internet land know what the stock pumps flow? I think you could help your cause by putting bigger injectors in.
I was going to say, I'd be more concerned with the injector size at that point.
Yeah, but if you put bigger injectors in and lowered the static pressure, you would help pump situation out too. So you could trick it a little bit that way, but are you going to do that? 2.7 liter surge tank OEM pump is just circulating to the surge tank and overflowing back to the stock tank. Doesn't take long, maybe less than 10 seconds at wide open throttle. Drops from 65 to 35 psi.
Is something in the fuel system cavitating?
I don't know. OEM pump is just circulating to the surge tank. What do you mean by circulating? Do you have a direct feed from the OEM pump into the surge tank? Like, it's not going up through the factory lines and regulator and all that stuff, right? It's not. We don't want it feeding the surge tank at 60 psi. We want it feeding the surge tank at 0 psi would be great, but 5 psi or 10 psi would be better, or would work. No Holly tune files. No, that's not what these are for. Fuel pressure regulator that returns to the surge tank. Be sure the surge tank is running dry and you aren't just experiencing cavitation inside the tank with all that pump. That's what Joel and Jimmy were kind of asking. Constant current, constant voltage. Would imagine flex fuel pump would be bigger than non-flex. I know that's a good point. I would imagine that that's the case, and I would think even that a 6.0 or a 6.2 pump would be bigger than a 4.8 or a 5.3 pump. Would think cavitation would happen at low load. My pressure is only dropping after a few seconds into wide open throttle. I have injectors for the 99 Silverado and a C5 regulator. Just worried about the stock pump not being able to flow enough. I don't know. I mean, you could watch it and see what happens. You could watch the fuel pressure and see if it actually is dropping. I mean, there's no better way than data logging it to find that out. It made you feel smart when Joel said that too. Yep, that's how I feel when I talk to him.
No, you guys.
When he verifies what I thought I knew. The overflow line on the surge tank is just a fitting on top. If the overflow line extends down into the tank, it could siphon fuel out. Node 6AN from the OEM pump. AEM filtered directly to the surge tank. 6AN overflow to the OEM tank. 10 AM from the surge tank to 525 to fuel rails. 6 AN from the fuel rails to the regulator. 6 AN to the regulator.
So there's no regulator between the OEM pump and the surge tank then?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, that's good, right?
Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah.
Thomas wants to know how do credits work toward tuning?
So, well, with the RTD, there's a credit pool, right? So Jimmy's kind of in charge of that. So the credits are already taken care of once they receive the device. Their device already has credit. They can add credits to it to do another vehicle themselves, but they would have to either come back to us or get an invite number from another tuner if they wanted to use another tuner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so far as the credits that they have, the credits are already taken care of for the vehicle when they order through you guys.
Okay. And then just so people don't take advantage of the situation, when they get a tune and then let's say it takes a revision or two, they don't get unlimited changes, right?
No, not at all. There's a reasonable amount of revisions. And I mean, if they're having trouble with something, obviously we're going to want to sit and help them. We're not going to leave them dry, but no, eventually you go like, hey, you changed a part after somebody's like, I need another revision. Fuel trims just don't change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
You mean the tune doesn't just fall out of it?
Unfortunately, no. As much as half the world wants to believe that, it lost the tune. I've been listening to people say that since 2013.
Yeah. Only a regulator on the 525, the feed and overflow, and the surge tank are just fittings on the top. Does the factory fuel pump, is it internally regulated? Or I don't remember what year that you said that was. Did it have an external regulator on it, or did it have an internal regulator on it? I still have some GM credits left on my old MPI. So could they use those?
Yeah, that's not a problem. They would just still need to pay for the service,
Yeah.
Because I mean, if it's something that's not going to be like TD incompatible, they can always just get on an email with me, and we can send HPT files back and forth and work it out that way.
Okay. Yeah, there's the top. Might want to extend the feed line down so it doesn't aerate the fuel. We're all fixing stuff. Mm-hmm. We had a surge tank on our World Challenge car, and we put we actually tried doing with an old Essex pump, which was pre-aeromotive stuff.
Oh yeah.
And we tried that, and we got like internal leaks in the fuel pump, which was bad. Lucky for us, it was external to the it was external to the fuel cell that we had. But what we did was Bernie ended up making a surge tank with the factory like 5-liter Ford kind of top on it. We just cut one of those out of the thing, and then just stuck that in with a big in the tank pump, because this is a naturally aspirated like 5-liter motor. It wasn't making a bunch of power, 350 or 400 horsepower or whatever. But the surge tank was tall and thin, so it didn't ever move. It didn't ever slosh. And the fuel from the tank would feed the surge tank, and then it had an overflow return back into the regular tank. So, and we had for the tank in the regular fuel cell, we had lines extending to every corner, so it'd pick up all the fuel from there and then put it into the surge tank, and then until the surge tank ran. If the surge tank ran dry, you knew that you really were out of fuel. That was all of it. And I had on one of the races run out of fuel on the cool down lap. So we used all of the fuel.
All of it.
Yeah.
Well, it made it as far as you needed to, right?
Yep. I told them I planned it that way so that I could be racing with as little fuel as possible.
Return file that originally had no pressure on the fuel rails.
Is there a benefit to return systems on a Gen 4? A lot of guys will go to that on real high horsepower stuff. but we run it both ways on the dyno. We'll sometimes run the pump feeding the rail and then come back to the regulator that's mounted on the dyno. Sometimes we run the pump into the rail. I mean, not the rail, the regulator. We'll run the pump into the regulator and then just deadhead basically both sides of the rail, or even one side and have it loop around. I haven't seen a change in power or air fuel side to side from doing that.
I personally like return style fuel systems. That's just me. And I don't know if it's just the comfort of the rising rate, because doing the deadhead on this vehicle and actually like sort of leaning on the fuel systems where we're pretty high in our injector duty cycle, I was like, wow, it's almost like you're just trading pump for injector at some point. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
yeah, one of them you're making their life hard.
Yeah.
Should I angle it so it swirls? Yeah, you got to get the swirly. And if you're going to go race in Australia, you got to swirl it the other way. Then I don't think LSA blowers are all that cheap anymore. They're not. They're not good. They're not great deals.
Turbos are.
Oh yeah, but turbos would work pretty well though. I really appreciate everybody chiming in. I like return styles the best. I've used those more in vehicles, I think, than not. But like I said, on the dyno, we're using a regulator. But if the regulator's before the fuel rails and we're just deadheading the fuel rails, that just means that the regulator could be there. It could be all the way back in the tank. It doesn't really matter. It's going to return that fuel anyways. We got a couple more minutes. This motor doesn't have reverse piston, so I don't think I need to reverse swirl my spool. There you go. That's fine. You could modify those yourself, though, and do that. Does anybody have any more questions about the tunes? To happy hour, nice. Where are you going? That it's well, I guess it could still be happy hour. It's still early. Could put turbos on my 06 with 11.5 to 1. See how far on the ground my rods end up. You can make that work.
It'll work.
You just have to have the right fuel and the right timing. I mean, air fuel, it's going to be 11 to 1 or whatever, but with the right amount of timing and cold air going to the turbo, and the right fuel and a good intercooler and stuff, all of that's possible.
This motor over my shoulder is 11 to 1, and it's going to get boost.
I remember putting turbos on the first 2003 Z06 that we had.
LBC, Thomas. I used to work there, by the way. Okay, go ahead.
And it made like 650 on 7 pounds. It was nothing. We were just like, oh, this is great. And then whenever the LS7 Z06 came along and it was like 700 at like less than 7 pounds, we were like, oh wow, this is even better. So
oh yeah.
Turbos.
I remember Mahovitz doing the high compression testing stuff on the modular stuff that he was doing, particularly with when they were doing the big blowers on the 5.4s and 5.8s. And so they would really step up static compression. He's like, I'm going to run 12.5 to 1. I'm like, well, if you have enough, octane in the fuel, you can do that. I said, that tuning window is pretty narrow, especially for what you're doing, because they were doing like standing mile stuff. And they went to turbos eventually, and that was kind of a better way to go. But I said, he had a Motec and they knew how to do it and stuff. I said, so if you get that part right, it makes power. I made 600 motor, all motor. Shouldn't take much more to get to 1,000. Yeah, that's easy. That's less than 10 pounds. Used to work at CHP or Probe. Nice. I did a lot of stuff with those guys back in the day.
Yeah, you took us there. I remember when we were at HP, we went over there and we saw those tombstones just burning through those pistons. I was like, wow, they're making chips fly.
Oh yeah, cool. That was back when Sean worked there, and Derek from L&R hooked me up with Sean. We did a bunch of stuff, and Chris, when Chris owned it, we did a bunch. I did a bunch of 5-liter Ford stuff with those guys back in the day.
Oh, we used to, yeah.
Richard, I'll need a tune soon for my swap 2005 H2 Hummer, 6-liter 4065E, in my mom's 1997 Chevy. So now I need a cam and tune, and VATs delete. Does GM still have VATs on stuff?
Yeah, they do.
Okay. I thought that was like L98 Corvette stuff.
They have.
How far back did it go?
I don't know how far back it goes, to be perfectly honest.
Do you know, Jimmy?
I don't.
Another issue, tune related. I'll swap my P01 truck to a P59 running HPT 2-bar OS operating system and cannot get it to go into boost enrichment. I can tune around it, but it always references the PE table.
I've had that problem before. I think we actually had the Tahoe do that. Didn't we try to do the boost enrichment tables in the Tahoe and it didn't like it, so we just used the PE table?
Yeah, we did.
It's hit or miss on that.
And we also found that whenever we were doing that, we ended up plugging the MAF back in and cured a lot of issues. Do you remember that?
Unplugging the MAF, aside from being stuck in the low octane timing table, there's some wonky stuff that can come along with it. I happen to like the speed density tuning, but that's just because, like, I don't know. I think it's funny to me because most people got their start in standalones and then they go back to the factory PCMs, and I was like the opposite. I started in import factory PCMs. Standalones, I was like, hey, I don't want to mess with those, for the longest time. Now I've been playing with them for a while, but I'm starting to see them more and more now.
Yeah. We back in the 5-liter stuff, there were some speed density stuff. I was lucky enough. My 88 was a factory California only mass air car, so I only did mass air stuff really back then. And then we just did pro-ams and bigger injectors and all that stuff back in the day, and FMUs.
Oh, those were great.
All of that.
Was it like an A9L ECU or something like that? Yeah. Scale the whole tune.
Yep. Low buck truck tune. Will it be good for a BTR truck Norris? I think it's going to be comparable. Put a set of 5.3 heads on 6-liter. You can easily put 5.3 heads on 6-liter. You can put, and they all interchange until you get to the rec port heads, basically. Like being able to run on pump gas. Derek at LR has my 799 heads right now. He's milling and cleaning them. Yeah, I like Derek. Derek's good people. I've been friends with him for a really long time. Jordan, make sure boost enrichment's going in the right direction. That's date to at least 93. Okay, I thought that I remember them on those Corvettes, kind of back when I was doing stuff with the guys at, I think it's Pacific Performance was the name of it. And when I was working at the Chevy magazine, and so they had L98 and LT1 stuff that they were doing back there. It's opposite of the PE. I had Danny Swanson to my Fox body back in the day. I remember Danny. Yep. Hummer's getting an 8.8 liter in it and a stick shift. Oh, that'll be fun. Tremec TR 4050. Will the 4050 be enough for the 8.8 liter? That's going to have an abundance of torque. We got 2 more minutes. There. I remember Danny Swanson. That's why I love talking to Mark Sanchez whenever I go down there, because he's OG even way before I was. I mean, he was doing stuff with AEW, but with Kaufman before that, and all of that. Back in the days with the guys from Extrude Hone, and I put Kaufman's name on my car. Mustang Dynamics was a fledgling kind of Mustang place that I worked for a little bit. Had their name on there, and I had, when I first did my Mustang, I had all that stuff painted on there. It wasn't even vinyl. They're like, "Are you sure you don't want to do?" Because I had a vinyl guy too. He's like, "Are you sure you don't want to just do vinyl?" I'm like, "No, the guy hand painted and airbrushed all of the stuff that was on there." I'm like, "Man, that looks really good." And then when I took it to Knott's Berry Farm, they're like, is that paint? I'm like, yeah, that's paint. They're like, dude, you're gangster. Are the tunes for the P59 or others just learning? Yeah, they're for all of the. What years did it go from and to, Jimmy?
99 through 2013.
Okay. And on that note, thank you guys all for showing up. It is time to go. If you have any more questions, please, put them in the comments after this is over. And then obviously we'll be doing live feeds, every night after this. So if you have more questions, just come on and answer. Send, if you want to place orders at richardholderperformance.com, go do that. And then you can also reach out to Jimmy. We have contact stuff on the store. And then he'll get you in touch so that we can get the questionnaire and all that stuff for tunes, and Joel will get you hooked up. Thank you guys for showing up, and I will be back tomorrow.
See you later.